Every big dream starts with somebody saying, "You'll never make it." I love tea.
All right, please introduce yourself to the world.
Hey guys, I'm Laurel. I'm an actor, I'm a singer, I'm a dancer, I'm a mom, I am a writer, I'm a director, I'm a producer, I am a social media manager, I'm a marketing director. I live in Orlando, Florida. I'm from California. I always say I grew up eating avocados and reading Shakespeare on the beach. Here we go. All right. Off to the Dr. Phillips Center in beautiful downtown Orlando.
So this is Mills, huh?
This is Mills. A lot of great places. Pigza, Mills Pub, Little Indies. I haven't tried Planties yet, actually. Oh, Taco China. Taco China got me through the pandemic. So I have been a performer since I was born. My parents actually met doing a musical together. So I always say that if it wasn't for musical theater, I wouldn't exist. They met doing the musical Showboat together. My dad was an opera singer, my mom was in the dance ensemble. I started dance lessons when I was 3. I think I started playing piano when I was like 2, or like as much as a 2-year-old can play piano. My grandmother was a jazz pianist, and she started teaching me when I was a baby. I learned almost everything I know about music from my grandmother. She would pull me out of school starting from when I was maybe 9 to go with her to retirement homes to sing like standards for all the grandmas in town. She'd have her Casio and I'd have my tap shoes, my little like wooden plank that I would tap dance on. And I would get to skip school so I could go sing Forget Your Troubles and Just Get Happy for the retirement home circuit. Something I always have in my car is water. I always have water. Like if I don't have water with me, I immediately feel dehydrated, like I'm gonna die. I also always have Tropical Twist Trident. I buy it in bulk. I have been chewing this gum for probably 20 years. And when I go on long road trips, I go through a pack a day sometimes.
Is it for anxiety or?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It curbs my hunger, I guess, and it also just tastes so good. And it gives me something to do. I drive a lot. I moved here from LA and I thought I would drive less. I probably drive more. I drive farther distances because in LA it takes, 2 hours to go 5 miles. So I was on the road a lot in LA, but I'm also on the road a lot here because I live downtown and I work at Disney. So one gig that I've loved was singing backup vocals for Joey Fatone, AJ McLean, Wanya Morris, Dee Snider, Debbie Gibson, more people if I think harder. But I got to sing backup vocals for all these huge names. There were 2 backup singers for these gigs. And I got to travel around Florida, and I love a musical challenge. So we would be given these parts on, sheet music, and we would have to sight read them. And I love using my brain that way. I love sight reading. Give me a piece of music, and I will just sing the notes. So getting to sing Bye Bye Bye, the high harmony of Bye Bye Bye, Bye 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 Bye, I was living my teenage dream because I loved NSYNC when I was a teenager. I had their posters on my wall. Hang on, let me see if I can get a better soundbite of me. So I got to stand behind Joey Fatone. Bye, 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 bye. Bye, bye. So actually to this day, if you play me any Backstreet Boys or NSYNC songs, I probably cannot sing the melody. I'll just sing the high harmony. It's gonna. All that I do is not enough for you. Orlando does have a lot of really beautiful lakes. Oh, they still have a Christmas tree in that one. I hope it stays all year. I love Christmas. Oh, these people still have their decorations up too. Christmas decorations just put you in a good mood, right? I'll go this way. You can park in like that little lot by the DMV. In my early 20s, I was cast as Andy, the little boy, in the original cast of Toy Story the Musical. I had done several auditions for Disney. They were writing various musicals at the time. I had actually been seen by the casting director for the original cast of Finding Nemo at Disney's Animal Kingdom for the role of Nemo, which I did not get, but the casting director thought, oh, I think this girl would be really good in our next musical, which is Toy Story the Musical. So I was seen for Andy, and my agent called me and said, hey, they love you. It's on a cruise ship. So I did some thinking because it meant leaving LA, and I took the role. I got to originate the role of Andy in Toy Story. It's very exciting to be in a new musical, especially for Disney. I got to meet really amazing Disney people. John Lasseter, our creative team was incredible. And I lived in Toronto for 3 or 4 months, I think, when we were rehearsing the show. And then I went on the cruise ship, and I really liked it. So they asked me back for another contract on the cruise line, and I said, yeah, I'll come back. And I ended up doing that 3 times on Disney Cruise Line. And the ship that I was on, most of the time, ported out of Cape Canaveral, right here in Florida. So I spent a lot of time in Florida. And at the end of my last contract, I went back to LA. I was doing some theater. I wasn't auditioning for as much as I wanted to, and I had a good friend who had moved to Orlando from New York, and he said, actually, I work a lot in Orlando as an actor. So I moved to Orlando. I end up getting cast in Finding Nemo, the musical, not as Nemo. Years have passed. So I play Dory now, and Peach, the starfish, and Squirt the turtle, who's actually younger than Nemo. So I would say that I moved here for Disney, but I also moved here for the commercial scene, and I have booked more commercials here than I did in LA. What do you know? Here we are in beautiful downtown Orlando. The Dr. Phillips Center is on Anderson and Rosalind. I think the actual address is Anderson Street, but it's a huge center, so it actually spans from Anderson to South Street, and then Rosalind to what's that street? Magnolia. All right, here we are. There's Judson's Live. We can walk over there.
Do they open the bar just for shows?
Open the bar?
Like at Jetsons? Like,
oh yeah, just for shows. Actually, it'd be a good idea if you could just go in and have a drink, but yeah, you have to have tickets to a show. But what I like about Judson's, it's 3:30 right now. What I like about Judson's Live, where I just played with my band, Laurel Hatfield and the Lala Band, is the shows start at 7 and 9, but the bar opens at 5:30. So you can actually go early, get your table, have dinner and drinks, and make it a whole night. It's a really cool venue. I think it's only been open for like a year. It's very exciting. The move here was a leap of faith. I did not have a job when I moved here, or an agent. I had nothing. I moved here and I found an apartment sight unseen. I found it online and I said, yep, we'll take it. And moved in, and the rest is history. Have I ever felt like I have failed? More times than I have ever admitted. I have auditioned for, hundreds, thousands of things. I once heard somebody say, well, Laurel books everything. Well, of course Laurel got it. Laurel gets everything. And I thought, do they really think that I get everything that I audition for? Because I do not. I just don't tell everybody about every audition I get. I audition sometimes every single day. I have an audition, and I most of the time don't book it. I've adopted the phrase set it and forget it. I do the audition, I do my job, and I walk out of the room, or these days, a lot of the times it's on Zoom, and I've done all I can do. And the casting director or the director or the producer, it's all on them. So why fret? Because I've already done my job. So I can't stress about it. But it did take a while for me to get to that point. I used to be hard on myself after auditions. If I thought it didn't go perfectly, I would stew about it, and I would just replay it over and over and over and over. And then I finally realized that there's no point. I've done all I can do, and I need to move on. And I call myself a smiler, and I'm not fake smiling, but I do choose to smile in spite of the situation, because if I can tell myself to smile, then I can hopefully feel the positivity that I'm exuding and maintain a positive life.
Dr. Phillips Center for the Performing Arts. Here it is. Well, one side. We're actually in the back. More
Alright.
in the front. But this way is where the poster is for Brooklyn's Bridge. We'll have to.
I also gave up acting for a few years, many years actually, to have kids. It is very hard to be a mom and be in the entertainment industry. Very, very hard. I had my first child in LA, and I was still performing. I had a nanny, part-time nanny, and fortunately I was in a situation where I could have a part-time nanny. But then there's always the guilt of like, oh, I'm leaving my baby and it's so hard. So when I moved to Florida, I made the decision to not audition for a while because I had gotten pregnant with my second child. And I felt like I lost a huge part of myself. I still wrote. I wrote a novel when I was pregnant with my second baby. I owned a dance studio in LA for 8 years. I actually still owned it for the first several years of living in Florida, and I would fly back and forth. So it was a dance studio and children's theater. I owned it with my best friend in LA, and I wrote a lot of the shows and I arranged the music for the shows. So I still got to be creative, and I would create things for other people to perform. I wrote a lot of music. I wrote a lot of plays, but I wasn't going to be in them myself. And that was really hard. So after I had my third child, I made the decision to go back to what I love. And I feel like I woke up. Like I had spent a few years sort of asleep. Not that being a mom isn't fulfilling, because I love my kids and I love being their mother. But there's something in my soul that needs to perform. I feel like myself when I'm singing, acting, dancing. Like there's times when I'm walking through the grocery store and there's a song on and I want to dance down the aisle so bad I have to hold myself back from like doing ballet down the aisle. Sorry. When I was in college and I was in the midst of booking all of these great things, my grandmother died. And she was the most important person in the world to me. She taught me how to perform. She taught me how to play piano. She taught me musicality. She was my everything. And at that time, there were a few musicals out. Yes, musicals. That I would listen to, that I would immediately get emotional listening to because the music makes me think of my grandmother. And this was the early 2000s, so we're talking Songs for a New World, Wicked, last 5 years. And it was hard for me to even get through a song. I would try to sing in my car for months, a year after my grandmother passed away, and I couldn't finish a song. I would start crying. And I started sort of having to, I say desensitize myself to the songs. That's when I started, I guess, obsessively rehearsing songs. So if I'm learning a show, like I am right now, I will focus on one song at a time. And this started after my grandmother died. I will sing through it and sing through it and sing through it and sing through it over and over and over, especially if it's an emotional piece, so that I can get through it without crying. And then I can add the emotional layer on top afterwards. Because I had to separate myself from the music so I could get through the music. And it's tricky as an actor because we have to pour our emotions into things, but we also have to stay separated, because if we pour all of our emotions into everything, how do we live?
It's pretty cool.
Pretty cool! I've never had a character that I'm playing be on the poster for a show before. If I'm in high school, that could have been.
The matinee must have just ended.
And it landed really well.
Should we go over to the corner? Oh, it's their 10-year anniversary this year. So there's a lot of this like 10 years celebration. It's so cool how theater can bring all these people to one space. Like all these people came to this location to see theater. It brings all these people together.
It's a really tricky thing. I say that all actors are a little crazy, because why do we do this to ourselves? I make myself go through these emotions on purpose. And it started back then when I would force myself to sing through emotional songs on purpose so that I could sing them and not immediately break down and cry thinking about how I wouldn't even be a singer if my grandmother hadn't taught me how. I question some of my decisions sometimes. I like to smile through everything, but I have a lot in my brain. I sometimes wonder if leaving LA was a good decision. I am divorced. I wonder all the time if that affected my kids too much. I do feel a lot of mom guilt. I feel a lot of guilt all the time about going back to acting at all because I'm gone in the evenings and I'm not a stay-at-home mom. I'm not the mom who gets to go to everything. I miss a lot of things that my kids do. I try to be at everything, but I can't be in two places at once. And like I said, everyone thinks this life is glamorous, but I'm the mom who doesn't get to go to the second grade play because I'm in rehearsal for something and I can't get out of it, or I'm on set shooting something and I thought it was gonna wrap by 5 and we're in overtime. Theater's important. Okay, we're coming up on Judson's Live. So Judson's is the music venue at the Dr. Phillips Center. It's like a jazz club. It's supposed to feel like we're in like New York. It's an intimate venue. It's got a full bar, restaurant, and they have vegetable acts. They have national acts and they have local acts. You walk up the ramp and see it. So my band played here just a few weeks ago.
I used to sing with your husband.
No way!
Yes.
Oh, what's your name?
Emily.
I'm Laurel.
I know you're like
Hi.
weirdly.
Oh my gosh! You're just cute. That's so sweet.
What was my nothing for? I was like, no, I was.
Oh, hi.
Seriously.
You too. Hi. You never know who you're going to see here in Orlando at the theater.
Laurel, you're famous.
I know, she recognized me from Disney, of all places. How funny is that?
So the creative team up in New York reached out to a casting director down here in Orlando and said, hey, we're doing this concert version of this musical. Here's a breakdown of the roles. Can you cast the show? So she sent out this information to a lot of the actors that she knows in Orlando, and it made its way to me. And she asked me to send her my reel. So I just sent her my reel, some clips of me singing, some clips of me acting, my website. And she writes back, the creative team wants to read you for the lead. And I was floored. I was prepared for them to either say no, because that's usually what happens, or read me for a smaller role or ensemble. So I learned a lot of the material for the role of Emily and sent it in. A week goes by, she writes me back, hey Laurel, they ended up going with someone else for the role. I say, no problem, catch you next time, because that's what happens. Another week goes by, she writes me again, hey Laurel, the creative team really wants to work with you, they really love your work. Is there any way that you would accept another role in this show? And I said, absolutely. I love being part of new works. I love any opportunity to create something, build something new. And I always wanted to perform at Dr. Phillips Center. So I said yes. I get to the rehearsals and long story short, I ended up singing a few of the Emily songs in this concert because it was just a concert version of the show. So instead of having one person play Emily the whole time, they had 3 of us do different chunks of the role, which was great. I was honored, such a great experience. 6 months go by, and the writer calls me and says, guess what? We got the green light to do a fully mounted production of Brooklyn's Bridge at the Dr. Phillips Center next year. And we want you to be our Emily. I will never forget that moment. I got off the phone and I started dancing like a crazy person. I was like, oh yeah, cool, yeah. I'm totally chill, totally cool. This is normal for me. I know how to handle this situation. I don't want to jump up and down and scream. And then I definitely did that. So when I have a really vocally demanding role or a really vocally demanding show, I don't drink alcohol. Usually it's for at least a week before the show. Right now, I'm not drinking at all. I haven't had a drink since New Year's Eve. And I will go all the way through the end of Brooklyn's Bridge. It messes with my sleep schedule. Alcohol messes with my sleep schedule. It dehydrates me. And I find that when I drink alcohol, I don't have as much vocal control as I normally do. And it's really important for me to have the perfect control over my voice for this role. So that's why I'm not drinking right now. Brooklyn's Bridge is a new musical written by Ray Roderick and Joseph Baker, who live in New York. This musical has an incredibly powerful message and is especially important right now because it shows what a woman can do. She was a genius. Emily Roebling was a full-on genius, but wasn't allowed to utilize any of her skills, her talents, her mind, because she was a woman. It is based on the true story of Emily Roebling, who was the wife of the engineer of the Brooklyn Bridge. And the engineer, her husband, Washington Roebling, was actually the son of John Roebling, who was the original engineer, but who passed away right when construction began. So Washington, his son, took over construction of the bridge. However, he went down into the East River and got the bends. And back then, this was a new disease. They didn't know what it was. These men were just getting sick coming up from these compressed air chambers. And unfortunately, Washington Roebling, the engineer, came down with a bad case of the bends, and he was incapacitated and stuck in his apartment in Brooklyn. So his wife, Emily Roebling, basically took over the job. But it was the 1800s, and so a woman was not allowed to have that job. So for about a decade, Emily Roebling pretended her husband was giving her all these plans, but really it was her that was doing the math, the engineering. She built the bridge, and it took decades and decades and decades and decades for the world to acknowledge what she did. And the New York Times actually recently revised her obituary to give her credit for building the bridge. And I am so honored that I get to tell her story. It's incredibly rewarding to portray this badass of a woman. So there are a lot of regional theaters around the country that premiere musicals, and it's very, very exciting that Dr. Phillips Center is doing this and that this team from New York chose Orlando to premiere this show. We have one of the most beautiful theaters I've ever seen right here in Orlando, so why shouldn't we be the ones that get to produce new works? And the entire cast is Orlando based. A lot of us are from other places, New York, LA, etc., but everyone is currently local to Orlando. It is an all-star cast. I cannot wait to start rehearsals next week. I'm excited to share my journey. I'm excited to have people follow along and see what it's like to originate a role in a show. And I want to show people that you can chase your dreams. You can. Because this is my dream. I've waited my entire life for this. And I still have a job. And I still have to cook. And I still have to, you know, do homework with kids. I have to do all these things all the time. And I'm chasing my dream. And I'm not going to give up. So if I can do it, you can do it. We just have to, you know, schedule our lives in half-hour increments. And build in time to sleep and drink tea.